The old farmhouse creaked beneath the wind, its wooden ribs moaning against another dusk. Daniel Granger leaned on the porch rail, watching the sun sink through the lavender haze that swept across the plains of Epsilon Eridani IV. The planet's twin moons were rising, pale and distant, over the wheat fields that shimmered like silver grass. It had been 3 years since the war. 3 years since Earth's soldiers, including Daniel, had laid down their weapons and gone home, if home still meant anything. He'd traded his rifle for a plow, but the silence of his land haunted him worse than the screams of the front lines. The notice had been clear: labor needed, domestic help preferred. He'd posted it on the settlement's trade net because the loneliness was swallowing him alive. He expected some rough colonist woman, maybe an old miner's widow, someone who wouldn't flinch at the creak of an empty house. Instead, the next morning, a shuttle touched down in the field, and from it stepped an alien. She was tall, cloaked in a drab gray shawl that couldn't hide the faint iridescence of her lavender skin. Her hair was pale silver, coiled in simple braids, and a child clung to her leg, a tiny one, with large eyes that shimmered like pools of shifting gold. "Mr. Granger?" she asked softly, her translator pendant humming faintly. Her accent was thick but careful. "I saw your posting. I can cook. I can clean. I only ask for board and safety for my child." Daniel stiffened. "You're from the Sarin colonies?" She nodded once. "My name is Lyra. This is my son, Kay." Daniel's jaw worked. The Sarin had been enemies, slender, luminous beings who had once fought tooth and claw against humanity for control of these very worlds. He'd buried friends because of them. But this woman wasn't a soldier. She was thin, weary, her shawl patched and faded. The boy looked barely 2 years old. He could have turned them away. He should have. But when the wind tugged her shawl aside, and he saw the thin burn scars that spiraled up her arm, the kind plasma rifles left behind, something in him cracked. He stepped back and opened the door. "Come in." Lyra worked like someone who didn't know rest. By the second day, the kitchen gleamed, the hearth burned warm, and Daniel realized he'd been living like a ghost before she arrived. She moved quietly, cooking human meals with alien precision, adapting flavors she didn't know by smell alone. The boy, Kay, followed Daniel everywhere, wide-eyed and silent. He was different. Half-sized for his age maybe, his faintly luminescent veins glowing under his skin when he giggled. But when he laughed, it was a sound Daniel hadn't heard in years. One evening, Daniel came in from the fields, dust on his boots and shoulder sore. The smell of stew met him, a mix of herbs and roasted grain. Lyra looked up from the stove. "Human food is simple," she said shyly, "but it fills the heart." Daniel almost smiled. "You're not wrong there." She tilted her head, eyes glinting in the firelight. "Do humans still believe food can heal a spirit?" He froze. Heal a spirit. Those words stirred something deep, something buried beneath loss and gunfire and the echo of a child's scream from another lifetime, his own little girl, gone before the ceasefire. He looked at Lyra, then at Kay, who was toddling on the floor with a wooden toy Daniel had carved earlier that week. "Maybe," he said hoarsely. "Maybe we do." The days became routine. She rose before dawn, sang softly in her alien tongue as she cooked. Kay followed her, sometimes tugging Daniel's sleeve when he worked outside, babbling in mixed human and Sarin words. Daniel caught himself teaching the boy how to plant seeds, how to call the local birds. At night, when the wind howled through the plains, Lyra told quiet stories in the kitchen, of her home world, of crystal rivers and cities grown from living stone. And sometimes, Daniel caught her looking out the window, expression distant. One night, he asked, "You lost someone, didn't you?" Her hands stilled over a bowl. Many someones. She hesitated, then turned to face him. My husband fought in the war. He was not cruel, but he believed he must protect our home. When he died, the soldiers burned what remained of our village. I fled. Kay was still inside me. Her voice faltered. Humans called it justice. I called it fire without reason. Daniel's throat tightened. He remembered the raids. Orders. Villages torched because someone said rebels hid there. He had never seen faces. Only targets through a scope. I'm sorry, he said, the words rough as gravel. Lyra's gaze softened. Are you? Truly. He nodded. Every day. Something changed then. A quiet trust grew between them, fragile but real. Weeks passed into months. The harvest came early that year, the fields golden beneath the twin suns. Kay's laughter filled the air, and Daniel found himself smiling more than he thought possible. But peace is fragile on frontier worlds. One afternoon, a patrol skimmer descended onto the property. Two uniformed enforcers stepped out, their badges gleaming. Granger, one said sharply. You're harboring a Saren civilian without registration. Daniel's jaw clenched. She's my employee. She's done nothing wrong. Illegal aliens can't settle on human-claimed soil. You know that. Kay clung to Lyra's dress, trembling. The boy's glowing eyes widened in fear. The taller officer pointed. That child, half-breed. By law, it belongs to neither species. We'll have to take him for classification. Daniel moved before he thought. He stepped between them, hand hovering near the old rifle above the door. You'll do no such damn thing. The officer's eyes narrowed. You threatening us, farmer? I'm promising you, Daniel said, voice like steel. For a tense moment, the air crackled with the memory of war. Then the officers sneered and retreated, muttering about sympathizers and wasted reports. When the skimmer lifted off, Lyra sank to her knees, clutching Kay tight. Daniel knelt beside her. They won't come back, he said softly. Her eyes shimmered with tears. Why did you protect us? Daniel hesitated. The answer had been growing inside him for weeks. He looked at Kay, the small boy whose laughter had filled the empty house, and saw his daughter's eyes in those golden pools. Because once, he whispered, I couldn't protect my own. Lyra stared at him, understanding dawning. She reached out, her trembling fingers brushing his cheek. You have a good heart, Daniel Granger. He covered her hand with his. I just forgot I had one. That winter, snow fell for the first time in years, a rare thing on Epsilon Eridani 4. The land glittered silver under the moons, and Daniel found himself sitting by the fire with Lyra and Kay, the boy sleeping against his arm. Lyra hummed a Saren lullaby, her voice soft and haunting. Does it have words? Daniel asked quietly. She nodded. It means sleep, little light. The dark will not take you. Daniel swallowed hard. It's beautiful. She smiled faintly. Kay's father used to sing it to me. He would have liked you, I think. Daniel looked into the flames. I doubt that. No, she said gently. He would have. Because you see what others refuse to. Outside, the wind howled, but inside the farmhouse was warmth and laughter. The ghosts of war faded a little more each night. Spring returned. The fields bloomed anew. One morning, Daniel found Lyra and Kay in the garden, planting seedlings. The boy's laughter echoed across the yard. When he saw Daniel, he ran forward, holding up a small flower. Papa, he cried. Daniel froze. Lyra gasped, rising to her feet. I didn't teach him that, she stammered. He must have heard. But Daniel only smiled, the ache in his chest softening into something bright and alive. He knelt, took the flower and ruffled the boy's hair. "Guess I've been promoted," he said softly. Lyra's eyes shimmered. "If you wish, I can correct him." He shook his head.
"No."
"Let him call me what he wants." For a moment, the three of them stood beneath the rising suns, the past washed away in gold light. Months later, the enforcers did return, but this time, they found nothing unusual. The records listed both Lyra and Kay as human dependents, last name Granger. When they left, Daniel stood on the porch, arm around Lyra, watching their skimmer disappear into the horizon. "You forged papers?" she whispered, astonished. He smiled faintly.
"No."
"I made them truth." She turned to him, her luminous eyes soft. "You've given us a home." Daniel looked at her, at the woman he'd once feared, and at the child who taught him how to live again. "No," he said quietly. "You gave me one first." And as the twin suns sank beyond the silver plains, their light caught on Kay's golden eyes, two tiny stars that had awakened what war had tried to kill. Something human, something whole,